High altitude backpacking in a California heatwave, mosquitoes and freezing cold lakes. 18 months in the making. I had all the gear, but no idea. A Scot on the rocks. Let's dive in. Hello, Hendo here, and welcome to my John Muir Trail hike. In this video I'm going northbound from Horseshoe Meadow, climbing Mount Whitney and Forester Pass, the highest on the JMT and PCT. My permit was from Cottonwood Pass, northbound to Happy Isles in Yosemite Valley. To get there, I flew to LA, took a Metrolink train to Lancaster from Union Station, beautiful architecture, then a Yachts bus with other hikers to Lone Pine, arrived about 5 p.m. Mount Whitney towering above the bus stop. Lone Pine Kurt was waiting to shuttle us up the winding road to the trailhead, over 10,000 feet. Settled in the night before my permit started to acclimatise to altitude. The air was thin, campers were well spread out, so I didn't really meet anyone, just a couple of PCTers dropping in for resupply. So day one on the GMT, leaving Cottonwood Pass trailhead in the direction of Rock Creek. I set off with no one around on a flat, dusty, sandy granite path with 10 days of food in my bear canister. Took it slow in a high altitude, a heat wave and the switchbacks up to Cottonwood Pass here. After lunch in the shade, I traversed rocky terrain passing gnarly golden trees under a deep blue sky, stunning views of the Sierra Nevada mountains. I didn't film my rookie mistake of taking the path to the Rock Creek Ranger Station where I thought the bear box and camping would be. I settled for a pitch nearby, my first trail lesson, learned to read the Far Out app properly. I had no appetite in this heat and altitude, and my first day was done. Day two from Rock Creek to Crabtree Meadow took in Guyot Pass, and I watched this pack train while I was having my lunch of a chicken mayo wrap. Day 3, the big one, Mount Whitney, an early start. It was cold overnight, and with a hot Milo coffee shake, a Cliff Bar in hand, I had just under 4,000 feet to ascend. Out and back. Felt good just to have a day pack on though, with water and snacks. Cool in the shade. I took my time, passing Timberland Lake here, and on my way to Guitar Lake. Reaching the top of Mount Whitney was such a highlight, and the actual starting point of the GMT for me, coming from the south. It took me 5 hours from Crabtree Meadow. I was nervous of altitude sickness, but took it slow and just felt a little lightheaded. The views were breathtaking. I shared a 30-year-old single cask Scotch whisky at the top with a fellow hiker. This is looking across to Mount Hitchcock and down to Guitar Lake below, where I'd come from. Such a long way back to camp, but such a relief to make this part. Day 4, leaving Crabtree, Meadow and Mount Whitney behind. There's a series of climbs and ascents and descents, but no mountain pass. I took a dip at Tyndall Creek before heading 850 feet up to a high camp at 11,800 feet. No one else around, only marmots and chipmunks for company. I had to wait for the sun to drop and witness a most incredible starry sky so high up in the mountains. Day 5, the final ascent up over Forester Pass. It reminded me of the mountains in Scotland with bowl-shaped what we call corries with small lakes. The switchbacks waved up through what seemed like impenetrable wall. Cool in the morning shade, it was much easier to tackle. The deck Meadows was buggy, so I hiked up 1,200 feet to Kearsarge Pass signpost, flat area just before Charlotte Lake sign. I could see it through the trees. Shattered, but 57 miles had been done. My routine now was hike till you drop and camp high. I had no appetite in the heat and altitude, but was on schedule. So on to day 6. Started at the Charlotte Lake sign, about 10,770 feet. Many people rejoin the trail here from Onion Valley Resupply Independence, but my plans was one resupply at Muir Trail Ranch, so I would be continuing on, contouring round the Forest Mountain with Charlotte Lake on the left hand side, a tricky undulating boulder section in the morning shade that would lead up to Glen Pass, approaching the steeply stepped glacial basins. Here at Ray Lakes, absolutely stunning spot in the Sierras. So I spent some time having lunch and had a dip in the lower lake. The afternoon then disappeared, descending a seemingly never-ending valley to Woods Creek, which the suspension bridge was the camp for the night, and I met many other hikers there. It was really good to catch up, but unfortunately I lost the slider top of my water bladder in the river while filing up and having a dip, so it's thanks to beekeeper John for his spare Sawyer pouch. On to day 7, I was last to leave camp at 8,500 feet, a low point in the trail, over the wobbly bridge and into the forest, following Woods Creek Cascades, then up towards Pinchot Pass, a 3,600 feet ascent. Pinchot Pass was my nemesis on the trail, not so much a technical climb, but one of the toughest days I had. It was very hot, I had no energy, and I was super slow, so I was very late to reach the pass top. But however, I really appreciated the geology that day, eventually reaching the barren rocky heights, different coloured rocks. After descending the other side of Pinchot Pass, the switchbacks down towards Lake Marjorie, I already knew that's where I wanted to camp. It was quite early to camp from the other side of the pass, quite unusual. I'd usually go on quite a few miles after a pass, but this particular day, because it had been so difficult for me, I felt that I really needed to stop and recharge my batteries and dip my toes in the water. It was ice cold, the lake, washed up and ate and took an early night. There were some other hikers around. It was a great spot, beautiful lake and really nice views over the peaks here. On day 8, I woke earlier than usual and was briskly walking with a protein bar and shake in hand, passing sleeping campers. The trail was kinder in this section, it was meandering, but also the light was incredible pre-dawn. As I walked down past the lake, there was fish rising to the surface, and really enjoyed this time. It was a very particular moment in the trail, this. I remember as I walked down towards the South Fork Kings River Junction, I would find my way down the switchbacks. There'd be one testy crossing here, but it was a low water year, so it wasn't too bad. And then there'd be the very long ascent way up towards Mather Pass. But after filling a small creek, a southbounder had said I should look for a rare longhorn sheep on the north side of the pass. And then just after that, I caught sight of a coyote on the rocks over my right shoulder, walking past around, eventually behind me, limping with its back right leg missing. We never lost eye contact. It was an eerie exchange. Would it be an omen for me in the trail? I carried on upwards towards the pass ahead, skirted a small lake, then steepening switchbacks to the rocky peak. I took many breaks on the way up. Mather Pass, 12,094 feet. After the Palisade Lakes, the beautiful meadow flowers, there was a steep descent down the golden staircase below. It was very tricky with the big pack on, and there was Palisade Creek waterfall on the left hand side. I was glad to get to the bottom that weaved more gently through the forest in and out of clearings. There was some mosquitoes down there, but eventually found a small clearing under trees to camp and cool down in the creek. This is Lower Palisade Creek. It was about 8,900 feet. For camp, it had been a long 19-mile day, dropping over 3,000 feet. On day 9, sounds of the river woke me. I broke camp early and had a lovely walk in the woods, soon turning up the middle fork of Kings River, skirting Grouse Meadow in the shade. It was cool and bug-free, a pleasant start to the day. Crossing a bridge, the trail started to climb again, 2,600 feet gained today, steadily surrounded by silver granite peaks in and out of clearings, heading to up Bishop Pass Junction, and there was deer moving across the trail. Onward they followed the river and turning again left up Big Peat Meadow, and I was searching for camp spots. My target today was as far as I could towards Muir Pass and LeConte Canyon. As my legs faded in the afternoon heat, I stopped here at 10,800 feet, the outlet lake of Middle Fork Kings River, the famous Kings River of California, below Helen Lake and Muir Pass. A few others camped nearby. A sharp peak ahead looked a bit like Paramount Studios Peak. 109 miles in, I was getting closer to halfway in the trail, on target for MTR resupply in just over a day's or so time. I wasn't running out of food so much because I had no appetite. Starting day 10, a short hike up to Helen Lake here, looking over Mount Solomon's and Muir Pass. This creek outlet is a stunning spot, filled up with water in the early morning sun before the final ascent to Muir Hut at just under 12,000 feet. A milestone on the trail. Then would be a long walk down past Wanda Lake, Evolution Lake and the valley below. More beautiful flowers and alpine lakes to feast on. McClure Meadow. I never found signs on the trail particularly helpful. It meant to say take a left for a shortcut in the dry season, so I went left. The creek crossing was only shin height. I switched into water shoes and got attacked by mosquitoes in the mid-afternoon sun. Took a break at the Evolution Creek waterfall, cooling my feet before the next drop down. Looking down Goddard Canyon, I got a camp spot just next to the second bridge. End of a long 17-mile day. I was about 4.5 miles before MTR, tidied my trash and bear canister for the next day would be resupply day. I had dropped about 4,000 feet to 8,387 feet and was now in the south fork of the San Joaquin River, the longest river in Central California. On to day 11. Another creek wake-up call. Over the bridge and I was heading into the John Muir Wilderness. The south fork of the San Joaquin River was noisy and dramatic. The terrain fell away. It felt like I was leaving the mountains. The 4.5 miles to MTR seemed forever, longer than I thought, just like every other JMT mile on the trail. Reaching MTR was a tremendous relief, but also it was a trail low point of 7,687 feet. I'd made my first big challenge, carrying 10 days of food to get there. Triple Crown Outfitters resupply was really straightforward for me, and I just cleaned out the canister, repacked with new supplies, raided treats, the leftovers, and filled up with water and filtered tap. Bought a much needed bug net. My pack weigh-in was £35, not too bad. I gave away spicy backpacker meals and couldn't eat them. Before long I was back on the trail, up the access trail and then steep up switchbacks in the searing heat. After a torturous climb up to Senger Creek, a 2,400 foot ascent in 11 miles for the day. And suddenly the weather changed. Thunder, lightning, very, very frightening. I pitched early before Sally Keys, 10,100 feet, and hunkered down for the night. After the previous night's drama, it was on to day 12. The storm had cleared. A stunning clear morning at Sally Keys, a beautiful spot. Only had about 800 foot to reach Selden Pass, just below 11,000 feet. Down past Marie Lake, a long descent down Bear Creek and reascent of Bear Ridge, an incredible thing happened. A Texas hiker passed me trying to catch the last VVR ferry of the day. I had resigned myself to not making it and suddenly got swept into a race down to Mono Creek and dry riverbed of Lake Edison. The ferry, a gutsy 17 miles. We made the last ferry by 10 minutes and Paint Your Wagon took us over the lake. Thanks to Texas Jake for having the foresight to book a room and let me stay. Although I had resupplied the day before, I was transported to VVR Vermilion Valley Resort, a bar, restaurant, first beer on them. What a day, what a relief to be there. So on to day 13, VVR 0 day. Everyone in the trail says you must go, and now I knew why. I was so glad I did. I rediscovered my appetite. And here's the leaving weight, £37, not so bad, as well as laundry, wash clothes, sleeping in a bed, hot showers, charging your phone, using Wi-Fi, eating fresh food and drinking local craft beer. It was an opportunity to recover and meet people I had only met in passing on the trail. Hanging out all day, doing nothing was the remedy I needed. Staying 2 nights meant I could sit around the campfire, catch up with people properly. Much is said about VVR prices, but I didn't mind at all. The rest of my trip was free camping and I got my appetite back. I shared teaspoons of my remaining 30-year-old single cask Scotch whisky with fellow hikers and hear other accounts of the previous day's thunderstorm. I definitely missed the worst of it for sure. Now it was on to day 14, time to head back to the trail, and we left in a group around 10 AM. Felt like the start of a trail family. We said our farewell to the VVR team who looked after us well. It was going to be back across Lake Edison, Mono Creek, and across this stunning lake on a clear day. We stopped when Paint pointed out a nesting bird of prey, but up ahead would be Silver Pass at 10,778 feet. It would be a grueling 3,000 feet descent for me back on the trail, but would the group stay together? We dined together on some rocks above Fish Creek, and then it was bed where we'd camped for the night. Day 15, As I got out of my tent, others were breaking camp. We split up, leaving at different times. Over Fish Creek Bridge, the sharp pull up Tully Hole was surprisingly tough, especially first thing, a brute to start the day. The path eventually swung out to a wide long switchback, gaining 1,200 feet, finally reaching Virginia Lake at 10,400 feet, a beautiful place to stop and dip my toes in the water and fill up. Above Purple Lake, we chatted to a ranger, had my permit checked, and then a long pack train passed soon after that, took lunch at Duck Creek. And although the trail was more undulating contour as opposed to steep ascent, the afternoon our energy was sapped. Looking back across Silver Pass in the Cascade Valley, we were starting to get weary and decided to camp at Deer Creek, 9,100 feet after 13 miles. And here I was admiring a fellow hiker's ultralight tent. It was really quite a cool tent and I didn't have any other footage. So this is the route across. You can see from Camp 14 to Camp 15 this undulation, but it was really a long day. It was very, very hot that day. Day 16, Deer Creek was where I would say farewell to fellow hikers as they were meeting friends and family at Red's Meadow, only a few miles away. I set off solo again, and there was beginning of the end feel to this day. From now on, I mostly saw people going the other way. Marching down to Red's past Crater Meadow, I'd seen so many fallen trees in the trail, many succumbing to an invasive beetle. After trail junctions, crossed the bridge of Middle Fork San Joaquin River, another low point at 7,600 feet, similar to MTR, so that meant a steep climb back up to overlook Devil's Postpile. Lunch with feet soaking in Minaret Creek, and the heat drained all my energy in the afternoon sun. After Gladys Lake, I camped at Rosalie Lake, a beautiful secluded spot over 9,000 feet, and 15 miles in for the day, 1,700 foot ascent up from Red's Meadow. On day 17 I started early with steep switchbacks down to Shadow Lake. This would lead to Shadow Creek where I filled up with water. The day would be a series of ups and downs to different lakes. Garnet Lake, which at first I thought was Thousand Island Lake, with Banner Peak surround and really framing the lake. Had lunch at a shady spot beside Ruby Lake, which was really beautiful, kind of reminded me of Rosalie Lake. Then the breezy wide expanse of Thousand Island Lake, which I'd seen in so many other videos. Picture postcard views as I headed up to Island Pass. Then down again, up Rush Creek, all exposed in the heat by now. I made a call after Marie Lake's junction, filled up at the creek and pushed on to find a higher camp. Went past the pond and the flat area off from the path was a stunning view, the sunset looking back to Banner Peak here. Peaceful but also melancholic sense that most of the adventure was now behind me. Now on to day 18, a day of drama ahead. Camping high at around 10,200 feet had meant an easier ascent over Donahue Pass, only 800 feet to reach over 11,000 feet, and made it by about 8:30 in the morning. Same time roughly as Muir Pass and Forester Pass before it. I was entering Yosemite Valley for the very first time in such a dramatic way. Stunning vistas included distant red haze, pyrocumulus clouds of a newly named wildfire. On the long descent to Lyle Canyon, wildfire discussions intensified as I reached valley floor. I had escalated quickly, a new challenge and one I had never experienced before. "2 miles from a smoke-filled Tuolumne Meadows, a ranger told me of the 8-mile camping exclusion zone in the area. I'd already hiked 15 miles to get there. Tuolumne Meadows was my twilight zone for me. Poor trail signage at Lyle Fork, the camping ban and thick wildfire smoke had me in a sweat. All I wanted to do was get to Tuolumne Meadows store for sodas. I made it to the ranger station dishevelled, and eventually to the store where I had Coke, Snapples, ice cream and candy to thirst my smoke-dried throat. Other hikers were bemused by the signage too, so I wasn't alone. Then I went on a big loop round Lambert Peak car park, no trail signs there, went quarter-mile down an unopened brand new road to find a GMT PCT wide highway path with these nice information boards, which then swept around the river and back in the direction of the store and across the highway Tiago Road. I was utterly confused and knackered by now. I'm sure the signage will improve, and I guess because I'm not a local, it was quite difficult to know where to go. Then after Highway 120 junction, a ranger told me I had 3 miles up over 8,000 feet cathedral lakes to get to, into thicker wildfire smoke before I could legally camp or bail right there and then. The adrenaline kicked in and I pushed on up the steep forest track. It was an eerie atmosphere in the thickening wood smoke, fading light, dark shapes in the trees. I'd never done this and was anxious of my chances. Eventually, I found a camp spot near the lake. A sudden rush of relief flowed over me as a blood-orange, sunburst sunset through the trees. I went to watch the oak fire sunset. The power of nature and the human spirit is an incredible thing. And finally, day 19, the final countdown. I wasn't sure if this would be my last day, but I was relieved the smoke hadn't engulfed me in the night. It was beautiful, clear Cathedral Peak here, looking resplendent. The smoke-filled air now crisp and clear. Alpine meadows, reminiscent of my time in Provence, surrounded, and meadow flowers, purple daisies like an airstrip along the path guiding me, all reminded me of my mother. Being in nature here really blew me away. Even though I come from a beautiful country, Scotland, I was awestruck by the flora at altitude here around 10,000 feet and even higher in Mount Whitney. From flattish meadows, sunrise lakes, the day would drop down 6,000 feet in steep switchback sections, leading down to strange charred trees at Forsyth and Merkhead Lake Junction. I was 2 days ahead of schedule, but the smoke had returned, so no chance to take in Cloud's Rest or Half Dome. After a stop for lunch at Little Yosemite Valley campsite, I headed down at the top of the Mist Trail Junction. A local family recommended I go down the Mist Trail for the best views. Nevada Fall was simply incredible, even in poor visibility. Then Vernal Fall. I was surrounded by thousands of tourists by now, walking up, and I was gingerly descending down steep steps. It was surreal. I felt like I was evacuating off the trail and everyone else was oblivious and on a day hike. At one point I misstepped and I had to climb back up here. Not easy at this point. I was so tired by now. Another 1,000 feet to go. Happy Isles, the trailhead just ahead, and the last 19 days in the trail flooded to a moment. Among the crowds, I felt alone, emptied. I had no trail buddy to high five and celebrate. One regret that I would have. And at the trailhead, I couldn't find somebody to take a photo, so I took a selfie instead. And also, I couldn't find the mileage sign that everyone takes a photo of. After 250 miles, my GMT adventure was over. It was a big life experience. Back to nature. So many memories. This is from Yosemite Facebook page of the day I finished. 2:30 PM at Happy Isles. My footage looks much clearer than the naked eye. I couldn't see the mountains around me. Getting off the trail, a shuttle bus full of tourists to the visitor centre and a yachts bus was leaving for Fresno. The Highway 140 was closed. On the way to Fresno, the bus stopped at Fish Camp, which sold wildfire t-shirts, which I thought was odd since we'd passed so many tearful firefighters nearby. A week after I finished, there were terrible storms, so I was very lucky to finish the GMT. Would I recommend it? Yes. I hope you enjoyed the series. Thanks for watching. Until next time, Slán Java.